Welcome everyone, I'm Steve Stewart. Thanks for joining me as I visit the cemeteries, graves, memorials, and final resting places of the famous people who have touched our lives. They may be gone, but they're not forgotten. Hey everybody, I'm here at Pacific View Memorial Park, as you can see behind me, and it's a beautiful day. This is a beautiful cemetery. It's just, well, most of the graves overlook the ocean. It's really gorgeous, and I've been here most of the day. I got here when they first opened this morning. I've been searching for famous final resting places all day long and found quite a few. There's a few that I wasn't able to find, and maybe some of you will know where they're located. And if you do, please leave a comment in the comment section, and I'll come back at some point. It's a beautiful cemetery, and I'd love to come back and try to find those famous final resting places that I missed this time. But I did get quite a few that I think you're going to like. Just inside the front gates, on the left-hand side, is a section called the Garden of Valor. In this section, right near the road, you'll find the gravesite of professional NFL football player John Gordy. Gordy played 10 seasons with the Detroit Lions from 1957 to 1967. On the opposite side of the street is the park office. On the back side of the memorial, behind the flags, is a section called Lakeside, and this is where we'll find the final resting place of animation pioneer Rudolf, or Rudy, Ising. Rudy got his start in animation in the 1920s, working with Walt Disney. Rudy is probably best remembered today for being a part of creating the Looney Tunes and the Merry Melodies. He even won an Academy Award for his animated film, The Milky Way. It was the first non-Disney animated film to win an Oscar. Next, we'll drive to the gravesites of actors William Cagney and Jeanne Cagney. They were the brother and sister of actor James Cagney. William was an actor, but he was also a producer and was associate producer of one of his brother's biggest hit films, Yankee Doodle Dandy, which is also one of the most iconic American films. Sister Jeanne was a film, stage, and TV actress and appeared in nearly 20 movies during her career between 1935 and 1965. She even appeared in a number of her brother James Cagney's movies, including Yankee Doodle Dandy. It appears that nearly everyone in the family had a part to play in that movie. I'll pan around so you can get an idea of where the graves are in relationship to the rest of the cemetery, and you can see how close it is to the street. A short distance up the road, where it starts to curve around to the left, on the right-hand side is a section called Reflections. As you'll see, it's a niche garden for cremated remains. It has a beautiful waterfall with a stream that runs through the center of the garden. This is where we'll find the final resting place of another popular NFL football player, Rich Saul. Saul played with the Los Angeles Rams from 1970 through 1981. He also had two brothers that played with the NFL, his older brother Bill and his twin brother Ron. Rich played in 6 Pro Bowls during his career. As you know, I've visited a lot of cemeteries and a lot of grave sites in my day, and this niche is one of the most unique that I've ever seen. I've seen a few niche gardens like this before, but I think this is the first time I've seen one carved out of a stone, and it looks like a real stone. It's really very impressive and memorable. And what a great place to spend eternity. I really like it. How about you? What do you think? Just a short distance away, behind the gates near the waterfall, is the final resting place of David Stewart Freeman. Freeman was an author and an adventurer, and is probably best remembered for co-writing the travel guide 100 Things to Do Before You Die. So have any of you read Freeman's book? And if so, how many of the things have you done so far? My list is more like 1,000 cemeteries to visit before I die. If I'm lucky enough to complete my list, that should keep me alive for a while. How about you? What's on your bucket list? Hopping back in the car, I'm going to head back down toward the front gate. But before I get there, I'm going to make a right-hand turn and drive up the hill. I'm taking the long way just to show you a little bit more of the cemetery. Once we start heading up the hill, on the left-hand side is the Bayview Terrace, and this is one of the larger sections in the center of the cemetery, and this is where we'll find the final resting place of actor John Wayne. Like most baby boomers, I grew up watching John Wayne movies for as long as I can remember. I grew up watching westerns, and he was certainly the biggest star of western movies. But it was my late grandmother and my late brother Bill who were huge fans of John Wayne. So I'm here today visiting his gravesite for them. If they were still alive, I'm sure they'd be here with me. My brother John was also, and maybe he still is, a huge fan of John Wayne, and now that I think about it, I should have invited him along with me. Well, we can always come back. John Wayne's grave is just to the right of that large tree that you see straight ahead. For those of you not as familiar with the actor, I read somewhere that he was in 70 movies before he got his big break in 1939 in the movie Stagecoach. That's the movie that made him an instant star. And it only took 70 movies to get there. But he remained a star for the rest of his life and did, I think, almost another 150 movies during his long and very successful career. He was known mostly for his Western and military films, and always seemed to play the tough, rugged, all-American male. Many of his movies are American classics, and in 1969 he won an Oscar for his performance in True Grit. In the end, he really was so much more than just an actor. He really became an American icon. As you can see, it's located on the side of a hill and it has beautiful views of the ocean. And from his gravesite, you can also sit or stand and watch the planes take off from the John Wayne Airport, which is named after him, of course. He definitely has one of the best views from the cemetery. Now, with this very strong sea breeze, I'm not sure you're going to be able to hear anything I say. Sometimes these cameras and iPhones really pick up the wind. And but I'm going to give it a try here. If you're wondering what I'm looking at, it's this beautiful tree. I don't know if that does it justice, but this tree is right next to John Wayne's gravesite. Oh, where is it? Here it is. It's been pretty easy to find just about everybody today. I would say this is actually a small cemetery. It's not even medium sized, it's small compared to the other cemeteries that I visited. And maybe that's why I've enjoyed searching for everyone today, because of it's been a lot easier to find just about everyone. So I would definitely recommend visiting this cemetery if you're ever in Orange County, if you're ever in Newport Beach, flying in and out of Orange or out of John Wayne Airport. It's really just I don't know, maybe it's 5, maybe 10 miles away. It doesn't really seem very far. From here you can see the planes going overhead, so it's not that far away. To get to the cemetery, you take MacArthur Boulevard. The John Wayne Airport is also located just off of MacArthur Boulevard. So on my way to the cemetery this morning, I stopped off at the airport so I could visit and show you his larger-than-life statue in the atrium of the airport. It's pretty impressive and very lifelike. It's a beautiful bronze memorial that's been there for decades, and it's a perfect tribute to the actor who called Orange County home. Heading back across the street now to the Mausoleum, I'm going to enter the Lagunita Court and head straight back to the Alcove of Faith. This is where we'll find the niche on the very back wall in the area that looks like a cross of character actor William C.P. Austin. Austin has the honor and distinction of being the very first actor to play Batman's butler, Alfred, on the first Batman serial. Next door to the Alcove of Faith is the Alcove of Time, and this is where we'll find the final resting place or niche of Ruben Salazar. Salazar was a reporter for the Los Angeles Times and the first Mexican-American journalist to cover the Chicano community for the mainstream media. In 1970, during a Vietnam War protest, Salazar was struck in the head by a tear gas canister and killed. Following his death, Salazar became a local and national hero. Coincidentally, he has a park named after him in Los Angeles, which is just blocks away from the Calvary Cemetery that I visited last week. Now, if I had known his park was there, I would have visited the park at the time. Now that I know it's there, I'll stop by on my next trip to Calvary Cemetery. While you're in this outdoor mausoleum, you may also want to check out the courtyard and this beautiful fountain. This is just one of the many beautiful fountains and water features that you'll find throughout this park. Back to the car, we're going to continue heading in the same direction, and still on the right-hand side, we'll come to the Magnolia Court outdoor mausoleum and courtyard. In one of the courtyards with the fountain, on the top row of crypts, we'll find the final resting places of director and producer Robert Webb and his wife, Barbara McNeil Webb. Robert produced and directed quite a number of popular and memorable movies and TV shows. His wife Barbara was a producer and a film editor. Among her more well-known movies were All About Eve, Niagara, and Viva Zapata. In a nearby courtyard with another fountain is the final resting place of Mary Marks. Mary was the second wife of Chico Marx, who was one of the Marx brothers. In the same courtyard is the crypt of band leader Freddie Martin. In 1946, he had his biggest hit with Tonight We Love, with Clyde Rogers on the vocals, and it sold over 1 million copies and became a gold record. In the 1940s, Martin was very popular on radio, and he also appeared with his band in a number of movies. In 1949, he also had a hit with the song I've Got a Lovely Bunch of Coconuts, with a young Merv Griffin as the vocalist. Throughout the cemetery today, I've noticed that hanging from many of the trees are photo memorials, chimes, and other whimsical items. This one really caught my attention though. As the breeze flips the photo back and forth, you see this person as young and old, young and old, young and old, back and forth. And it's a reminder of how fast time flies by, and how the journey from youth to old age passes by in a blink of an eye. Continuing on just a short distance, up here on the left will be the Newport Vista section. If you have a sweet tooth like me, then you're familiar with the name Helen Grace. Along with her husband, she founded the Helen Grace Candy Company, and the world's a sweeter place for it. Grace's gravesite is just a short distance down the hillside. It's pretty easy to find because there's a bench right in front of the headstones. Look for the bench that says the Grace family. While I was searching for her grave, I just happened upon this really cool headstone that depicts what looks like a medieval castle with dragons and gargoyles and all things fun. And I'm guessing that the person laid to rest here was lots of fun too. Next, we'll visit the Sunset Court Mausoleum, which is just across the street. I searched and I searched for musician and composer Les Baxter in the Sunset Court Mausoleum, but I wasn't able to find it. So I'm just wondering if maybe it was unmarked. If any of you watching know, please let me know. While I wasn't able to find Les Baxter's crypt, I did find the Partridge family's final resting place. And no, it's not that Partridge family. But it still put a smile on my face. Back in the car, continuing on just a short distance up here on the right-hand side, is a newer section of the mausoleum and the final resting place and crypt of entrepreneur and food pioneer John Galardi. Back in 1961, John Galardi opened his first Wienerschnitzel restaurant, or fast food restaurant, in Wilmington, California, which is not far from the cemetery. His simple but bright idea turned into the world's largest hot dog franchise chain. The chili cheese dog is still my favorite. We had a Wienerschnitzel restaurant just down the street from our high school, and we used to eat there all the time when I was a kid. I really miss those buildings, those original A-shaped red and yellow buildings from the 1960s and 70s. And I think I've seen a few still around Southern California. I guess the next time I see one, I'll have to stop and take a picture. I think we were much luckier to grow up back in the 60s when restaurants were a lot more fun. Today they're all beige and they all look the same. But the chili cheese dogs are still great. The Wienerschnitzel you see here is the one closest to my home in the Palm Springs desert area. The buildings are pretty generic now for some reason, just like all fast food restaurants. Over the years, they've stripped them of all their colorful personality. Almost directly below John Galardi's crypt is the gravesite of Jeff Hanneman. He's buried in the Pacific Gardens lawn section near the fountain and water feature, and not far from the street. Hanneman is best remembered as one of the founding members of the thrash metal band Slayer. If you're a fan, then you're familiar with his songs South of Heaven and Angel of Death, among many others. It may just be coincidence, but I think it's kind of interesting that Hanneman's grave is a very short distance from Bobby Hatfield's of the Righteous Brothers and Kevin DuBrow's of Quiet Riot. They're all just a few sections away from each other in the same part of the cemetery. I'll pan around so you can get a better idea of where the grave is located. Continuing down the hill a short distance to the intersection, we come to the Lido Terrace section on the right-hand side. Following the sidewalk from the street, as you can see, it's just a short distance to the private section on the right-hand side, where you'll find the final resting place of rock singer Bobby Hatfield of the popular pop rock group The Righteous Brothers. Bobby Hatfield and Bill Medley met and started the group in high school. They had many hits throughout their career, and throughout the 60s you really couldn't turn on the radio without hearing their songs. In 2003, they were inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. And many, if not most of their songs, are today considered classics. Well, they were actually instant classics. It's not possible to think of my childhood without thinking of the Righteous Brothers. They were just such a huge part of growing up in the 1960s and 70s. And who could ask for a better epitaph than that? Continuing on just a short distance and still on the right-hand side, we'll come to the Garden of David, where we'll find the final resting place of Kevin DuBrow, the lead singer of Quiet Riot. Another hugely successful musical group. Quiet Riot was a 1980s heavy metal band that's probably best remembered for the song Come On, Hear the Noise. But they had many hits and are still popular today. Directly across the street is the Seaview section, where we'll find the final resting place of fashion designer Bijan Pakzad. In 1976, Bijan opened his exclusive House of Bijan on Rodeo Drive in Beverly Hills. He became an international celebrity and sensation. His clients included many, if not most, of the famous people in the world. His fashion business became a global empire, and in 1989, he was inducted into the International Design Hall of Fame. In the same section, and just up the hill a short distance, is the final resting place of movie and TV cinematographer Jeanne Polito. Polito was the cinematographer for popular movies like Westworld and Up in Smoke. His TV shows included The Loretta Young Show, The Bold Ones, Mannix, and Lost in Space. In 1970, he was even nominated for an Emmy for the television movie My Sweet Charlie. Just about in the center of the cemetery is the final resting place of James Roosevelt II. He was a U.S. congressman and the oldest son of President Franklin Roosevelt. His gravesite is easy to find by following the two landmarks in this video: the bench near his grave and the arched Mausoleum building at the top of the hill. Another one of my favorite fast food restaurants when I was growing up was Bob's Big Boy. Robert Wyan, the founder of Bob's Big Boy, is supposed to be buried here in this cemetery in the Bayview Terrace section, but I just wasn't able to find him. So again, if anyone knows where he's buried specifically, please let me know in the comments section below so I can find him on my next trip back to the cemetery. To have the founders of Wienerschnitzel and Bob's Big Boy in the same cemetery is pretty cool. At least for a baby boomer like me who likes to take trips down memory lane whenever possible. Even though I was able to find at least a dozen or so famous final resting places today, there were still probably just as many that I wasn't able to find. I'll list the names of the famous people that I wasn't able to find today down below this video. So if any of you know exactly where they are buried, if you wouldn't mind letting me know and sharing it with other viewers in the comments section, that would be great. Now, right inside the front gates here is a Victims of Drunk Drivers Memorial. I just happened to see this, so I wanted to stop by and show it to you. I mean, it's sad, but it's also really, really moving that they would do this memorial. It's very beautiful. So I'll turn around so you can see it without me in the frame. So as always, thanks for joining me. It's really great to hear from all of you. So thanks for watching it. And if you do like this video, please give it a thumbs up, share it with a friend, but most important, leave a comment. Let me know what you think. I enjoy all of your comments and feedback. It's a lot of fun doing this anyway, but when I get comments, it makes it even more fun. So see you next time.